Recently, a influencer online known as Tophiachu, or Tophia, who is widely considered a lolcow, went through a horrible tragedy. The creator, who had in recent weeks been facing homelessness after being kicked out of their motel, faced the loss of one of her family members. The family was attacked while parked in a church parking lot. Her brother lost his life, and her mother actually was taken to the hospital and I believe is currently in critical condition.
Her elderly mother and her 2 adult children were in their car in a church parking lot when they were attacked by a man with a gun. Now, police say that the man shot the son and the mother while the daughter was able to get away. The son died from his injuries while the mother was transported to the hospital.
I bring this up to introduce us to the world of people who are considered lolcows and kind of the community that forms around those people. After this incident happened, while many people gave their condolences, including people who had made fun of Tophia online due to her online presence and actions, there were many parts of the internet and some parts where I even found people were rejoicing in the fact that someone had actually lost their life in a botched carjacking.
Brother on my arm, no brother on your arm.
And I think that really just shows the worst of this culture. If you actually touch grass and you actually are well adjusted, you might be wondering what a lolcow is. A lolcow is basically an internet term describing a person or persons whose entire internet presence is predicated on basically making fun of them. Unfortunately, lolcows are generally made because of things like their physical appearance. Lolcows generally are not considered to be conventionally attractive people. They also are made fun of for their behaviors. Many of the people we know today as lolcows are neurodivergent. Some examples of these type of creators include people like Joshua Block, also known as World of T-Shirts, Tophiachu, Chris or Christine Chan, who has been making waves online since like the early 2000s. I think she's one of the earliest examples of this phenomenon. I just really think this whole phenomenon and this whole kind of, this whole kind of lolcow culture is very odd. And I think it kind of is a evolution and a step forward from like shows like Jerry Springer, or even things like going further back like freak shows in which people would laugh and, gawk at people who were considered physically abnormal or different from them in their behavior in some way. Kind of just taking these people who sometimes are not even necessarily like physically, not considered conventionally attractive, but even people who are considered poor or economically disadvantaged are also kind of sometimes lumped into the lolcow status. But generally, the most famous lolcows are people who are, again, neurodivergent or not considered conventionally attractive. I think it also plays on the fact that in the modern day, there's this kind of stigma of making fun of people for no reason, which I think is a good thing, right? But in that stigma, it's kind of taken a step further back where it's like, I can't make fun of a person for no reason, right? But if I'm able to conjure up a reason as to why this person should be made fun of, as to why this person is a bad person, it's then seen as more acceptable to bully or harass or make fun of that person. These people are actively made fun of online, but people actively encourage them to kind of do these things, whether that be like fake nice comments or like monetary support. So many lolcows don't actually have I won't say real jobs, but a majority of many of these people's income is relying on sources from the internet. People, whether it be like Cameo, whether it be like donations to a PayPal, these people are getting money from people online who, some of them might have good intentions, but overall, I believe a majority of the people who are supporting them financially are people kind of looking at them for entertainment value, seeing them as a joke or just entertainment. It even gets into like criminal territory when it comes to people doxing and harassing these people. And I really just want to emphasize that I'm not excusing their behavior here. There are so many instances of lolcows doing horrible things. Chris Chan getting arrested for doing things with her mother. Disgusting, absolutely abhorrent, should not be accepted. But I do think the conversation kind of diverges from actually attacking these people for these things. Even before these things were happening, people were still harassing Christine. Of course, I think that calling the police on her is warranted, right? But the level of harassment, the level of kind of like the beginning stages where it's like, we don't necessarily know who these people are. We don't necessarily know what they've done. These actions are not like yet apparent to the public. And yet in the beginning stages, there's still this level of harassment. There's still this level of stalking. There's still this level of like, I know specifically for Christine or Chris, there were people who were like pretending to be like interested in her romantically, and it turned out to be false, and then she would kind of crash out, and that crash out would result in more attention, more publicity. It's kind of this never-ending spiral where these people are given a platform, given attention, which they might perceive as a good thing, right? Because a lot of these people are neurodivergent. Some of these people might not necessarily understand the ramifications of what's going on. They might not understand that people are actually not laughing with them. They are in fact laughing at them, which is so unfortunate and so disturbing. And even if they do understand that people are laughing at them, the level of influence and income might be addictive to them. They're going to continue making this content, which is getting views, getting attention. I really just think that overall, like, a lot of productive conversations which should be happening, right? I think people should be talking about Chris Chan doing these things with her mother. I think people should be talking about Tophiachu's behavior before this happened, right? Tophiachu was actively looking up like teenage. That was disgusting. She was actively kind of harassing people on the app. I think at a point, people say that she harassed a person to the point where they didn't want to come onto the app anymore because she was kind of like trying to flirt with them. But again, like, the beginning stages and the underlying reason why these people are given this public attention is because for some reason people think it's okay to make fun of people's appearances or kind of their actions. And I'm not talking about like their negative actions, because of course, like, you should be called out if like Tophiachu's like claim to fame was like her being a freak. That's horrible, right? Like, call her out. Don't bully her, but just call her out. It just really derails the conversation. It goes down to this like tribalistic thinking where it's like okay to do these things because this person is actually bad, so I can say and do whatever I want to because Tophiachu actually is a horrible person, which is like, okay, but like, you're also doing horrible things in the process. And I know it's like arguable on whether to consider her a lolcow. I said I wouldn't talk about her again because she's just kind of a mess overall. Like, but Ash Trevino kind of she's an example of like, inadvertently, I think this creation of like lolcow personalities has encouraged some people who aren't necessarily neurodivergent, who kind of know what they're doing as it pertains to creating this content, to create drama, to create a stir, even if they know they're getting made fun of. I think Ash Trevino was kind of emboldened by this culture to create this content, to kind of just showcase her lifestyle, to do these things that she knows are going to get her attention, to say these things that she knows are going to get clout or fame. But also on the other side of that token, I think that lolcow culture, as it pertains to like the level of acceptable harassment, because Ash Trevino says these things, because Ash Trevino does these things to her children and is like arguably a horrible mother and is, you know, dating these inmates and is engaging in disgusting behavior, for some reason that validates the internet's craving to go to people's houses and borderline stalk them. I saw videos of people going to Ash Trevino's house. I saw videos of people trying to give her food. I saw videos of people like who know like the layout of her house, like built it in like Roblox, built the layout of her house in Roblox. And it's, when you take into consideration that like, yes, her kids don't live with her, right? But like, they still are impacted by her behavior and her decisions and kind of her presence online. So to see that people are taking that level of just, I don't know, stalking behavior, kind of just like the lack of boundaries. And that's like I guess a wider problem as it pertains to people on the internet. But like specifically in lolcow circles, it's just seen as like that's acceptable behavior to dox these people, to harass these people, to dox these people. It's seen as acceptable behavior in lolcow circles, and it's just really disgusting. Going back to what I said about those horrible comments, I just think it's really interesting to see that these people's negative behavior is seen as some sort of qualifier to be negative and horrible and nasty to them online or in person, Like, yes, it is bad behavior, but I think that in engaging with them in like further bad behavior is not productive at all. I think it's really counterproductive to any sort of goal, to any sort of like, because I guess like the goal ultimately needs to be to not platform these people, to not give them the attention that they so desire, to not give them the attention that they crave, or to kind of like be honest with these people and say like, hey, like you might not know this, but these people are making fun of you. These people are bullying you. This is not like, you know, a fame thing. And that's hard because when you're getting all this attention, when you're getting all this clout, when you're getting all these people talking about you, you're gonna kind of think that is a result of organic fame. You don't really want to accept the fact that the internet is basically taking you as a joke and making fun of you and bullying you. And to go into a further point about exploitation of these people, because there's so much buzz, because there's so much attention generated by these characters, by these people, there are like not only entire communities dedicated to a lot of these people, subreddits, there's this one website which I think is just very disgusting, and it engages in a lot of nasty behavior, has been involved in a lot of disgusting behavior. It's called Kiwi Farms, and we'll get into it a little bit, but like, I don't really want to cross them or talk about them too much because, you know, don't want them to come for me. Like, girl, I'm perfectly fine not having my address plastered all over the internet. But because these lolcows generate so much buzz, so much attention, even though people claim to like hate these people, they basically have fan bases, loyal fan bases, people who are going to be checking for every motion, every action that they take. There's like a lot of content made on these people. There's a lot of like commentary channels, there's a lot of like documentary channels. People make a lot of money, even just covering these people based on information that's already available online, you know, and giving their own opinions on it. And I struggle with this point because in looking at some of my own content, I can see how you could argue that it's kind of exploitative, like my Ash Trevino videos. You could argue that that's kind of, you know, exploitative, but the reason why it's so popular to make content on these people is because, one, it garners a lot of attention. You get a lot more clicks when you say, oh, I'm going to be talking about Ash Trevino today. Oh, I'm going to be talking about Chris Chan today. There's a dedicated community of people online who want updates on these people, but might not necessarily want to do like the digging or the research. And going on that digging and research, in some of the videos that I've kind of seen regarding these people, is this sourcing of information from the very same forums which have engaged in like this behavior of stalking, engaged in this behavior of borderline like harassment of these people. Like Kiwi Farms is a big culprit of this. They're like entire forums dedicated to people, and it's not even necessarily like just lolcows, just people that people don't like. It's an anonymous website. People post people's addresses. There's like entire groups of people who can like literally like, based on the position of the sun in the sky, calculate where somebody is at a given moment, which is horrifying. And also, I think leads to a lack of safety for a lot of these people who engage in this type of content. And then overall, I just feel like this content relies on a lack of empathy. Like I said in the beginning, Tophiachu recently went through something horrible in which her brother lost his life and her mother was critically injured. But I was kind of digging on subreddits to see like, what is the general vibe? What are people talking about as it pertains to this? Like, are they actually, you know, kind of being like, ooh, maybe I should take a step back from this type of lolcow content? Or are they kind of continuing like the cycle of like, no, let's keep talking about it? So just to look at this one Reddit post titled "The Dark Truth of It All." This is more than enough for someone to do themselves in. She literally lost everything, and TBH, I find it somewhat poetic. The family was filled with so much negativity and hated every single day, and at 3 a.m., right in front of that church, they all got a punishment. Donald got it the worst because of the PDF file things. Donald, by the way, is his brother. Maria got wounded because of enabling and assisting Tophia's problems, and Donald Sr. was in jail. Tophia had to witness it all and was left in the very thing that started all of this, that phone. With no one to call, no family, no house, no car, alone in the streets because of what she does on the internet. Nobody is going to help you when all you do is be negative towards everyone. At that point, people want you to suffer. They may have been able to find another motel if Tophia didn't try to lie about why they got kicked out of the motel. She kept going at Squib and got put on the do not rant list. This is proof that you reap everything that you sow. So there's a lot there to kind of discuss. There's a lot there to kind of cover, but I just really think it's not necessarily emblematic of the entire community, because of course there's people who engage and enjoy this content that are not necessarily going to agree with this statement. But from what I know about Tophia lore, her brother had been accused of messaging underage people, which is absolutely disgusting, right? But to sit here and say that, you know, they deserve this and that this is a poetic kind of thing is really just disturbing, especially when someone like actually like died. I feel like there's this level of disconnect where these people treat these internet people like characters, like treat Tophia like a character, treat all these like people, all these lolcows as like cartoon characters, when it's like they're real people with real emotions, with real families. And like, yes, Tophia had her own problems, right? Yes, Tophia had done some things that are disturbing, had done some things that are disgusting, that should be called out, of course. I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, her brother was, you know, a totally great person, but like the level of disconnect and the level of the lack of empathy, saying they all got a punishment is weird. Is weird when people's lives were lost. And then the very thing that started all of this, that phone with nobody to call. And I've also seen a lot of criticism as it pertains to like, oh, these people should just get a job, you know, right? Well, the reason why these people don't want to get a job is because people like you are actively watching their content, actively, not necessarily interacting with their content, but kind of giving them the sense that they're famous. They might think that they're just, you know, their content's just that good. They're just a famous little person. Yeah, some people are calling it out in the replies, like one person said, ew. But like, I don't know, to see that type of content be spread in these circles is just really insane and disgusting.
Nah, I say let it die. Let it die, let it die. Let it shrivel up and come on, who's with me, huh?
The disregard for kind of human life there is just really one glaring example of the dehumanization of these people. And I think that's one thing that's very crucial to keeping lolcow culture alive. You don't really want to see these people as human. And there's also this idea of like an empathy well, right? I think Joshua Block is a perfect example of. So Joshua Block is this creator. He's neurodivergent. He's known as World of T-Shirts. He kind of came up in like 2020 era. He moved to New York, but he's been really famous, or his new era is kind of him just blatantly showing traits of alcoholism. He constantly is seen drinking, constantly is, you know, taking sips of stuff. And there's these people around him that kind of enable him, like in real life. Like, I don't know if they're managers or whatever, but they enable him. And recently he was having problems with his pancreas and stuff, but people's empathy is limited resource. And people were saying like, oh, you know, I'm just kind of tired of him. Like, we told him he deserves it, da da da. But it's like, of course it's a complex issue. Of course, I'm not saying here we should sit and enable him, right? But like kind of the lack of care for these people and the dehumanization of them plays a massive role in just kind of seeing them as objects for our entertainment. And there are some people who engage with lolcow content kind of casually and might not necessarily know that this is what it's stemming from. Like when I came upon Tophiachu, it was before a lot of these allegations came out against her and her brother. So I was just kind of seeing it as like, oh, these people are just bullying this girl because she looks different and, you know, she is considered like dirty, right? And I think when you dig deeper into a lot of what these people were saying, a lot of these people who were like kind of celebrating the death of her brother and kind of just like, oh, this is all her fault. What all this was about, like from the beginning, the fact that Tophia is not conventionally attractive, the fact that, you know, oh, she's 400 pounds. Like people were basically coming for her weight. I don't know. This was kind of my overall take, like a short, semi-research take on lolcow culture and how I just feel like it's playing into the dehumanization of people and kind of just cultivating a community where things like harassment, things like bullying people based off of their appearances, or their status as a neurodivergent person is just seen as more acceptable or more normalized. I think it's also playing into this wider cultural trend, even though lolcows aren't new, but like a lot of it is playing into this new trend in which it's becoming more acceptable to openly to make fun of people based off their appearances, openly to disparage people because of things like their weight or like neurodivergent status. It's becoming more acceptable to say the R slur, and kind of just this push to erase any sort of vestiges of the SJW era, which I could make a whole video arguing that like there was truly never an era in which SJW or political correctness was like dominant thought in like public society. Like there's always been this push of people who are like, no, how dare you ask me to like use your pronouns? And it's just so irritating. But regardless, yeah, I really just wanted to have this conversation about lolcows, lolcow culture. I really was kind of brought to it via the news about Tophia, because while I hadn't like fully dug into her lore, I had been a consumer of some of this lolcow content, seeing videos from people, video documentaries about her, and I don't know, just to see that trajectory and what happened and kind of the internet response really just drove me to thinking deeper about this lolcow culture in general, thinking about like its implications. But I really want to emphasize again that I'm not trying to excuse these people's actions. Like, this is not a video trying to be like, well, Chris Chan is actually, you know, she didn't do anything wrong. No, it's not, because she definitely did things wrong several times. Tophiachu has done some things wrong. Her brother is facing allegations, and I want to emphasize that like, yes, let's hold these people accountable. Let's talk about what they've done, right? But I think we could do that without trying to be like, oh, Tophi is ugly. Like, it just takes away from the conversation. It just takes away from like legitimate conversations about like the ethics of what they're doing, and kind of just makes it into, oh, how can we make fun of these people? But regardless, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, like and subscribe if you want to, and let me know what you'd like to see next time in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope y'all all have a great night. Bye, everybody.